All right, so we're continuing on with our Google Forms Learn by Doing activities, and this is lesson 5.3, job application, and we're going to be using more question types in this activity. So what we're doing is using Google Forms to create a survey that will include a variety of question types. We're going to name our form with our first and last name, lesson 5.3, and you're going to be submitting a live form URL. Okay, so we're setting up our form to require a response. We're going to learn how to duplicate questions. We don't have the option to use help text anymore, so this is something we're not going to do, but we will be deleting a question, changing our form theme, and then changing the confirmation page. So at the end, our application should look something like this. And again, we are submitting a website URL. All right, so I've already got myself set up in my Google Forms folder. You can see that I already have a form started with first and last name, lesson 5.3. I've already started with the application title and then the more information field, the form description. So if you could go ahead and pause this tutorial here and get that piece started, then we'll continue on. So go ahead and press pause, set yourself up, and then we'll continue with our first question. All right, so automatically every form for the most part starts with a multiple choice option. And by default, oftentimes a question will already be required. If it's set to the left and the required slide is grayed out, then you are not requiring this question to be answered. But in this case, we do want all of our questions to be required because it's an application. So we want to have as much information about the person as possible. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to type our first set here of information that we need. So we're going to do first name and last name. Now, don't do anything yet, just do the first name. And what you will notice oftentimes is that Google will try to interpret the kind of question that you want, the type of question that you want to ask the survey taker. So we have short answer here. Okay, that was automatically changed from multiple choice. So because that's the case, because I do want this to be a short answer, I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. And again, we have our drop-down menu that gives us our different options of different types of questions. Okay, so again, it used to be that you had to pick your question type, but Google has become much more intuitive, and so now you no longer have to do that. Now it will try to interpret the question type for you. 9 times out of 10, they get it right. Sometimes they do not. So we're going to duplicate this question because we just need a last name for our next, and we do want it to be required, and we do want it to be a short answer. So rather than adding another question, we're just going to duplicate this one, and we're going to change this to last name. Okay. So now what we're going to do is add the next question, which from our lesson activity is, what position are you applying for? Now, I said that we were going to be using help text, but that option isn't around anymore. So we can't do the help text. So you can see in the assignment page, the example of what we're going to be looking for. We have the question in bold, and then there's a little bit more information underneath that's light. That's when in the old Google versions, we could add help text. But since we don't have that option anymore, we're just going to include this all together. Okay, so I'm going to add a new question, and I'm going to type, what position are you applying for? And I'm just going to add that help text right next to my question. Select one or more positions. Okay. So you can see that again, Google has automatically interpreted the kind of question that I want. So since it says select one or more, That's why I have a checkbox option. If I did multiple choice, it would only allow me to select one. But because I want them to select as many as they want, I'm going to use the checkbox section. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type my information here. We have lifeguard. And then if I just hit enter, the next line will pop up for me, concession stand attendant, arcade supervisor, maintenance crew, and then finally we have ticket salesperson. Okay. And again, a checkbox and required. These are the type of questions that we want. Okay. Okay, so you should have this all typed up and we're ready to move on we're going to duplicate this question again. So again, we're going to duplicate. Okay. And then we're going to put what position. So this one is not on here. So you're going to follow along with me. What position would you prefer the most? Okay. Now, we want them to only pick one. So we're going to take this option off. That help text that we added, we're going to take that off. And we want to now change this to multiple choice. Okay, because now we do only want them to pick one. So you can see the difference here. Okay, these are boxes, check boxes, and then these are circles. Okay, with a multiple choice, you can only choose one. With a checkbox, you can choose multiple. Okay. So we're going to look at our next question here, rate your customer service skills. So I'm going to add another question, and again, making sure this is required. Adding another question, okay, and we're going to change this to a linear scale. And then our question is, rate your customer service skills. Period. Okay. And then in our one box, we're going to label outstanding. And for our 5 box, we're going to label, our 1 box is poor. And our 5 box is outstanding. Okay. So we're going to do the same scale, again, a linear scale, required. We want the same thing for numbers. The next one, rate your ability to complete, rate your ability to arrive on time, and rate your ability to work well with others. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the tutorial, write the rest of those 3 questions, and then we're going to move on. All right, so we're continuing on. Again, we're making sure, I'm just double checking to make sure that everything is required. So it has the little red star that says it's required. We have our scale. And so now we're going to add our last question, which again, it has that help text that we cannot do anymore. So we're just going to add it right next to our question. And it looks like we want them to have a longer answer. Let's see if Google intuitively chooses the correct format for us. So I'm going to go ahead and add a question. Okay, I'm going to type what it says, describe any experience you have related to the position, and then positions you are applying for. And then it says really small there, 50 words or less. Okay, and it has chosen it for us intuitively correctly. We do want them to have a paragraph, so it's got the long text answer, and then it is a required question. So it's exactly how we want it to be. Okay, now one of the skills, again, we don't need this. Okay, sorry about that. One of the skills that we need to learn is how to delete a question. So we've required a response, we've duplicated a question. We can't use help text anymore, so that's obsolete, but we do want to delete a question. And this is something I talked about in lesson 5.1. But to delete a question, it's pretty simple. I'm going to get rid of this one that says, what position would you prefer the most? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that question. And very easily, I'm going to click the trash can. And now it's gone. Okay, so now I have all the questions from the application form, making sure that I have my spelling correctly, first and last name, what position are you applying for, rate your service skills, rate your ability to complete, your ability to arrive, and your ability to work well, and then describe any experience that you have. Okay, so now let's work on our theme. So if we click on our palette, we can customize our theme. Okay, and what we want to do is choose an option here, and they've changed this a little bit. So I'm going to click on choose image, and I have all these different themes that I can choose from. Okay, and I want to try to find one that looks like what we've got here, which is an amusement park. So let's see if any of my illustrations. So I'm just looking for the amusement park. There we go. So under illustrations, about a third of the way down, we have our amusement park. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and then insert. And then I can change anything that I want about the background color. So if I want it to look like how this looks, I'm going to choose the darker. That's kind of the best that we can do. And then changing the font if I want to, because it is a amusement park. If I want to change it to playful, I can. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it basic. Okay, so once my options have been chosen, I can go ahead and X out of my theme option window. And the last thing that we're going to do is change our confirmation page text. So I'm going to go to settings. Okay. And I'm going to go to presentation. And here's my confirmation message. I'm going to change that to say, thank you for applying to Wonderland Amusement Park, period. Okay. And I do want to make sure that they can see a link to submit another response. I actually want to take that off, okay? Because if you're applying for something, you should only apply one time, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and click save. All right. So I'm going to preview this. I'm going to make sure that's exactly how I want it to be. I'm going to compare it to the example and make sure that the example is correct. I'm going to make sure that I have the little red asterisk next to every single question. That will show that that is a required question. Okay. Now on your screen, you might not have this, but if you do, as a person who is filling out the application, if I want to read my answer for a short answer text, or it's also down on the long form, I can click on that button and it will voice to text the information for me. If you have that option on your slides, that is, or on your forms, that's what that means. Okay, I'm going to go back to the form edit page, and what I need to do to submit this is I need to submit the live form. We're going to submit a live form URL. I'm going to make sure I've touched on all of those, and I have. So I'm going to go ahead and click send, and then I'm going to click on the link. I'm going to click shorten link. And this is the link that you are going to copy and submit to me via Canvas.